Hi, everybody. It's noon, so let's go ahead and get started. Thank you so much for joining us today. I am Michelle Morris from Consolidated Planning Group. I am so thankful that you're here spending an hour with us today. I love being here. I love educating the public, and I really appreciate that you come to these webinars and watch us. So I hope whether this is your first or your 40th webinar with us, that you get some great information today. We have Sarah Martinez and Jamie Moyer from Bloom Consulting with us today. They've got some great information to share. So I don't want to take up too much time with my stuff. I want to allow them to speak. But before I do, I'm going to go through kind of the housekeeping items and a little bit about me and Consolidated Planning Group. So first of all, you might have already heard me that we're going to be here for about an hour today. We might finish a little bit early. During this time when we're in webinar mode, we cannot see you or hear you. So it doesn't matter if you're eating your lunch or walking on a treadmill or whatever you're doing, we can't see or hear you anyway. But we do want to get your questions and comments. So feel free to put any questions or comments that you have into the chat box for us, and we will get to as many of those as we possibly can. We do record all of our webinars and we put them on our YouTube channel. You'll have a link to that later on. You will also receive a link in your email to our YouTube channel and to this video in particular. And then all of the slides that we're going to go through today will be emailed to you. So don't worry about it if you have to jump off early. You don't have to worry about taking copious notes because you'll get all of this in the email that you registered with later on today. Okay, so I think that is all of the housekeeping stuff I wanted to mention. A little bit about Consolidated Planning Group. We like to go by CPG. We are first and foremost a financial planning firm. The owner of our company has two kids with special needs. And when she was going through all of this and getting things put into place for her own children, she realized, wow, this is heavy and this is a lot and it's confusing. So we decided at that point to turn our whole firm towards helping families with special needs loved ones, almost exclusively. I would say about 95% of our clients have an individual in their life who needs extra attention and support and care. Like I said, we've been doing this for about 30 years. We are fully licensed in insurance and securities and financial planning and advising, but we're also members of the Special Needs Planning Academy, and we are nationally certified Social Security advisors. So we really take this very seriously. We live, sleep, eat, and breathe special needs planning. And what that means for our clients is that we can help you with a lifetime protection plan for your income. What about the money you have left to make it work? What happens if you live too long or pass away early, or you become disabled yourself somewhere along the way? So we do provide life insurance options and disability protection and things like that. Lifetime care planning for your individual. Maybe they're going to be able to work a little bit, but not enough to fully support themselves. Maybe they won't be able to hold a job at all. And how are they going to pay for their housing and their care and the rest of their lives without your help? So we help families figure out those things and figure out the future cost of care and how that can be covered. We always help families with transition planning. You know, when your child turns 18, all of a sudden, in the eyes of the law, they're not children anymore, and a lot changes. So we have to help with that transition, and then the transition from high school into real world. What's going to happen after high school? Of course, a lot of that is what we're going to be talking about today: work programs and educational options. There's a lot out there. We help families sign up for ABLE accounts, understand their benefits, their special needs trust, and we're here to advocate for you and educate you. the last thing I want to say on this slide is that, fewer than 0.1% of all the financial advisors in the United States do what we do. That is focusing on families with a loved one who has some sort of intellectual or developmental disability. So as you support your loved one, you know that you're in the right place. There's 263,000, give or take, 263,000 financial advisors in the United States, and fewer than 200 of them, not 200,000, just 200 across the whole United States, focus on special needs planning. So you are truly with experts and in the right spot when you talk with us. We understand and we know that it keeps you awake at night thinking about who is going to help you take care of your loved one when you no longer can. And we believe firmly that the time to start planning is right now. We would never criticize somebody for something they didn't do in the past. There's no point in looking to the past and saying, oh, I can't believe you didn't do that. There's no need to do that. We start from the now and we go forward. Starting your planning now, whether your child is an infant or a toddler, middle school, high school, over 18, it doesn't matter. Now is the time to start. You have a longer time to make small, incremental, easy changes that are going to have a big impact on your life. Thinking about high school, or what happens after high school with educational options, vocational options, residential options, whether that be partial care or full care, is really important. And there can be waiting lists. So get on the waiting lists early and give yourself the opportunity to say no when your name comes up if you don't need it. And then finally, make careful considerations before you just assume that a sibling would make a good caregiver. Maybe the sibling does not want to be caregiver or can't handle the duties of being a caregiver or has their own situation, their own life, their own children. And maybe your individual would feel a little bit resentful if their sibling suddenly wanted to step into a parenting role. So just be careful with that dynamic and feel free to choose other options if that would be better for you. So I'm done for now. I will come back on later. I will be checking the chat box for questions and comments. So please, like I said, put stuff in the chat box if you want to talk to us. And I will let Sarah and Jamie take over. Thank you so much for being here today with us. We really appreciate you.
Hey, so I am Sarah Martinez. I am with Bloom Consulting, and I am the HCS director with Bloom Consulting. And I'll be presenting most of the majority of the time here. And then we have Jamie Moyer. Jamie, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Hello, everyone. Thank you for opting into our presentation today. I am the National Director of College and Employment Supports with Bloom Consulting, and I'll be hopping on to discuss some of the TWC processes for supported employment in the Centex area, and then I'll follow up at the end of this presentation to give you some additional information regarding post-secondary education and maybe how that direction can be molded if that's the correct direction for your student or child.
Awesome. Yeah, so here at Bloom Consulting, the awesome thing about our company is that we have we're kind of a big umbrella that has a lot of different branches that help individuals with special needs navigate into independent living, whether that be through college exploration or finding a job or just, promoting those independent living skills, communication skills, social skills, all of those different types of things. So today we're going to really be talking about employment. And one of the ways that Bloom Consulting is able to offer those is through HCS, which is a Texas Medicaid waiver program. HCS stands for Home and Community-Based Services. And basically, we're able to pretty much partner with the state of Texas to provide all of these different accommodations to an individual depending on what their needs are. So although we're going to focus on employment, we can also offer other things like behavior supports and speech therapy and physical therapy and nursing services, so HCS is a really beneficial waiver program that if you're not already on the waiting list, that you definitely want to sign up for. And I'll talk more about that as we go on. If you want to go to the next slide. So how will you apply for the HCS program? So a child has to meet certain qualifications, and if the qualifications are met, then you can still sign up for the wait list pretty much, but there are certain qualifications that you do have to meet in order to get HCS services. And then depending on where you're located at, that is where you'll find out where you sign up. So if you're located in Harris County, you're going to call the Harris Center and then talk to your local authority or your LIDA to find out what the requirements are for those certain things. And I believe I have the requirements on the next slide. Oh, sorry. Okay. Yeah, so the requirements are there's no age limit for HCS, for the HCS waiver program. They must be able to get Medicaid services before enrolling, and then they have to have an ID under the state law or a diagnosis or related condition with an IQ of 75 or below. So I know you're thinking like, your child's probably 6 or 7, they just got diagnosed with their disability. They probably don't have an ID. That's fine. You can still apply for the wait list, and once they get their ID, they have their medical diagnosis, then typically the wait list is about 15 years long. And I know that's a little intimidating, but when you think about it, your child's still going to need these services more down the line. So after they do come up on the wait list, they'll do an IQ test to determine if they meet those requirements for the waiver. And then they also check for income and assets. So you can't have your monthly income can't be more than 300%, or sorry, your income of up to 300% of the monthly income limit for supplemental security income, and then no more than 2,000 in assets. Now, you may be thinking like, mom and dad, y'all have jobs, y'all are making money, and of course, like that money's not going to be able to support them forever. So this income is actually based off the individual. It's not based off of mom and dad's income or the guardian or the caregiver. It's based off the individual. So if that individual isn't making that much money in those assets. And then also, in order to receive HCS services, you cannot be enrolled in another waiver program. So there are other waiver programs out there for individuals, such as like Texas Home Living, class, those you can be on the wait list for those at the same time as HCS. So you can be on a class waiting list and an HCS waiting list, and then you might get called up for class. You can get those services, start those services with the provider with class, and then maybe like in a couple of years, couple of months, however long, they'll call you up for those HCS services. Once you decide if you want to select, class or HCS, you can only have one. So you can't have class services and HCS services, but you definitely can be on the wait list for both.
One real quick question, we use so many abbreviations, and in this case, ID. Do you mean intellectual disability?
Yes, yeah, that's a perfect question. Yeah,
I was
intellectual
like, they have to
disability.
have like a state ID with their picture? Okay, I
Yeah.
got you. Thank you so much for that.
Okay.
And yes, the wait list, gosh, when I started in this business about 4 years ago, we were saying the wait list was about 15 to 17 years. I've been told now that I should be quoting 20 to 25 years. So anywhere from 15 to 25 years is what you have to wait for these waiver programs. But as Sarah was saying, this is so worth it. Even if they don't get these benefits until they're 30 or 40 years old, that is okay, because they can help pay for all kinds of different things. I assume you're going to go into that, Sarah?
Yes, yeah. And again with the wait list, I know it's very intimidating when parents hear how long that wait list is, but like I said, you're individual. It doesn't matter what age they are, the caregiver, the guardian, the parent is not going to be around forever and they're still going to need those services. So obviously the sooner the better, but it's okay if, your child's barely 20 getting on that waiting list because again, they're still going to need them when they're 40 and 50 and 60 years old. So I definitely still always encourage everyone to apply for the HCS waiting list, along with the other ones as well.
And just
So
to
the difference,
clarify, one more thing, just to clarify, right now we're talking about the HCS waiver program that can provide these services, but there are job training opportunities and vocational programs outside of this waiver program that you do not have to wait for. We're going to get into that. So just be
yes,
patient and we'll get to that as well.
yes, ma'am. Mhm. So the HCS waiver program services provided. So these are the multiple services that you could benefit from. We have our host home companion care services, respite services, where we have individuals actually go into the home and help, one-on-one out in the community or in the home. And then we have our ISS, which is our day hab program. ISS, I know is a little weird because it's a term used, for disciplinary action here in Texas, but it actually stands for individual skills and socialization. And then we have our employment services, dental services, behavior supports, which is where like a BCBA can come in and work with your individual one-on-one, create those different strategies for them. And then they have supported home living, transportation services, social work, occupational therapy, physical therapy, speech, dietary services, audiology services, cognitive rehabilitation services, services for people with brain injury, accessible minor home modifications, adaptive aids, and transition assistance services. So how to choose Bloom Consulting as your HCS provider. So Bloom Consulting is an HCS provider, and if you're already enrolled, then you most likely have a provider already. If you decided that you wanted to switch, then you would just ask your service coordinator of the LIDA that you are assigned to. So again, if you're in the Harris Center, then you would call someone from the Harris Center, your service coordinator from the Harris Center, and ask to transfer to Bloom Consulting. And then if you're, newly enrolled, they're probably going to give you a list of a bunch of providers to choose from. I always tell everyone to do your homework, just make sure that the services that your provider is offering are the services that you need and that they can fit the accommodations that for your certain individual. Everyone has different needs that need to be met. So just do your homework and make sure that you're taking tours and asking all the questions before selecting.
And Bloom Consulting works all over the state of Texas, just like we do, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah. So our HCS program is in region 6. So that covers like Harris County all the way down to Galveston and Fort Bend County. So like Sugar Land, Katy area. Okay, and so now we're going into our Mission Life program. So our Mission Life program is our day hab or our ISS program, but the special thing about this is that it actually works with employment. So we're an ISS program that is employment based. So Mission Life itself stands for leading individuals to fulfilling employment. And so basically the way we curate our curriculum and our outings and our daily activities, it's all based around employment. So even if it's something as simple as like, oh, we're going to HEB and learn about like budgeting and cost, which is an independent skill that they're learning, we're still looking at the different jobs that are available there and what are the job skills that are needed to be successful at HEB. Like, do you think that you would be successful in this role? Look at the environment that you're in. Is it a fast pace? Is it slow pace? Do you thrive in this kind of environment, or are you more of more laid back? You want to be more secluded? Would you rather work in a library compared to working fast paced in a fast food restaurant or something of that nature? So our purpose at Mission Life is for our participants to explore the community and socialize and engage in the community within small groups so that we're able to tailor their experience to person-centered planning. So that means that we're not just making one curriculum and putting it on every single individual. We curate each individual's person-centered plan. So when we meet our individual and they first come in to meet us, we talk to them about what their needs are, what they're looking for, what their goals are, and then we talk about what skills that they currently have and what can we grow and what can we kind of work on and where they would be successful. Because one thing is, we don't want someone to just have a job just because, oh, this job is going to hire them and pay them and it's fine. It's something that they clock in and out of. We want them to have a sense of purpose. We want them to be happy with where they're going, and when they're clocking in, that they feel a sense of need to be there. So that's one different role with our Mission Life program. If you want to go to the next slide. So these are some of the activities that we do at our Mission Life program. We have our Mission Northeast, which is actually a food bank that our guys volunteer at. And here they're learning how to follow certain directions and orders. And they're also learning how to work in a group environment, because they have to bag certain items all together, and then they have to confirm on the list that every single bag has every single item on it. And then they organize it into the different routes that they're going to go and deliver these routes. So they're working with not only each other, but other individuals that they don't know, and sometimes our guys can be shy or nervous, and it's just really awesome to help promote their social skills in the work setting. Our second activity here is Meals on Wheels. Again, they're learning to work with others, and they basically deliver the meals to different routes depending on what day it is and what meals are being given out. So they actually go to the volunteer center, and then they get in their groups, they organize all of the material that needs to go where, and then they typically take turns on the route of deciding like who's going to go up to the door, who's going to be the one to communicate and talk about like what's being delivered. And then if for some reason someone's not at the door, how do they handle that situation? Like, oh, someone's not answering the door. What do you do? Like, how do we problem solve during these like difficult situations? The other activities is our life skills and employment classes. So here we typically will be out in the community, like a public library. Sometimes we rent out at a community center or even go to a park. And we basically teach like resume building classes and talk about like different volunteer opportunities that they have, and basically go through like mock interviews. So we'll actually have like some of our other staff in different departments come in and conduct these like mock interviews with our clients, have the typical questions that they're going to get asked, and, what are your strengths and weaknesses? Tell me about a time you've handled a difficult situation, and just different stuff like that kind of gets these guys a little bit nervous. And then we have our Fun Fridays, which our Fun Fridays are typically more fun. So they get to go to the movies, go to Topgolf, go to the beach, different stuff like this. Through these fun activities, again, we're still focusing on employment based. So when we're at the movies, they do go up to individuals working there and just kind of ask them like, what are the benefits of working here? Why do you like to work here? What are the can we, grow with this company? Are we able to get promoted? Different questions, they're trying to ask like what benefits them and if they'll even like working there at these different job sites.
So we've been having some questions and comments in the chat about why the waiting list is so long. And I just want to say a couple of things about that, and then ask you guys what your opinion is on why this waiting list for the waiver program is so long. So first of all, Texas is huge, and this is a statewide waiting list. If you move counties, you don't lose your place in line. But if you move out of state, you certainly have to go to that state's waiting list. Now, some states don't have a wait at all because they have enough funding, they have enough facilities, they have enough personnel, and not to get into a political discussion here or anything, but specifically, what we are seeing is that the states that have legalized marijuana are using those funds from taxing the sales to fund these programs, and they don't have waiting lists anymore because they've been able to serve all the people on the lists. Now, here in Texas, of course, we don't have that extra tax revenue to be able to fund these programs that way. What do you guys think is the thing that's really keeping that long list in place, and what do you know of anything that is being done to try to alleviate that?
Yes, I will say that I think you kind of touched on it a bit. I think a lot of times it's just that there's a lack of funding and facilities that are able to provide these certain services because these services are a lot to provide. Even if it's one-on-one direct care for an individual, going into a home and actually working one-on-one, changing and feeding and taking them personal shopping and taking them to their doctor's appointments, like those things for one, the state does fund, but it also is sometimes hard for facilities just to even hire someone who is willing to do those tasks for someone, right? So
And
Exactly. And it's not like it's a high paying job either. Jamie?
I was just also going to kind of caveat, and that's just that it is not easy to be a provider. And recently, some of these services underwent changes that were mandated by the state that are changes we fully support, but they're difficult changes that providers have to follow suit in. And so there are some providers that ended up having to close their doors because they couldn't meet those mandatory change requirements. And so that also provides its own challenge of, even if the state has the funding to support every individual on the wait list, they need to find providers that are willing to put all of that work in and able to find the right personnel and able to retain the right personnel, able to train them and ensure that they're providing the best services possible for the individuals in the programs. So I would say being a provider in general is its unique challenge. And the more we hear from parent advocates, from clients, from state representatives, the more difficult it will be to be a provider because we have to meet everybody's needs. And so it does take a lot. And fortunately, we were already in a place where we were meeting those requirements prior to the changes, but not all providers were. So that's going to slow down that wait list as well.
Thank you
yes,
both so much for tackling that. I know it's a big issue and we can't solve it today, but we all certainly want to work on it if there's anything we can do.
yeah, that was a perfect answer, Jamie. Thank you. Um, And so this is, I just wanted to add this slide in here. So these are our mission life trips that we like to take. So once a year, we do take our mission life guys on a trip. Last year, they went to San Antonio. The previous year before that was Corpus Christi. And this year, we're actually going to Disney World. And so again, with these trips, it's a time for them to be away from their families and kind of experience what it is to be independent, without, mom and dad kind of like giving them say so of what they're doing, and we get to like just promote those different activities and tell them, what do you want to do? What do you want to eat? Where do you want to shop? What do you like? How are we going to handle this trip? So we base that entire trip based off of like what they want and what they want to do. And they pretty much control the itinerary. We're just, there to help support their needs.
Do you fly or drive when you go on these big trips like to Disney?
So the previous two trips we did drive there ourselves with the clients. The Disney trip we were actually going to fly for the first time. So half of our guys are frequent flyers. They actually go on vacation a lot with their parents, and they're very excited to show their other friends how to walk around the airport and all those different things. The other half of our guys have never been on a plane in their life, so they are a little nervous. But I think just talking to their friends, they're excited to have this opportunity and learn from that. We also are meeting with the airline because I don't know if y'all know, but they actually do this really great program where they'll do like a sensory, not test, but like a walkthrough of the airport. So they'll actually walk our guys through the entire airport so they kind of get a feel and understanding of how things work. And then they even have like a simulation that they can put them in so that they can experience what it's like to actually be on a plane before they go on the plane. So we're doing 2 of those run throughs way before we even get on the plane for the final time.
Oh, that is fantastic.
Yes, yeah. And then so for Mission Life, how do people pay for Mission Life? So Our program has many different funding options, the main one being HCS. So the majority of our clients do come in through HCS, but we also do have private pay where some parents just pay out of pocket for these services. And then we also partner with Class and AmeriGroup. So we will like get contracts from Class. So we ourselves are not a Class provider, but a lot of times, our parents that are paying privately, they get called up on the Class waiting list. So great, they're finally getting services, but they don't want to like leave our program. So then that's where I meet with their provider or their service coordinator, and then we just set up a contract and put in place, and then their services never even stop. They just kind of get to keep on coming. It's just a different way of paying for those services. And that's pretty much it. Yeah. So going into employment assistance and supported employment, these are the services that are also offered through HCS.
Oh.
Sorry, yeah.
You're waiting for me, I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry, no, it's okay. So what is employment assistance? Our employment service program encompasses a wide range of services offering supported employment, job placement, job coaching, and then vocational adjustment training and environmental work assessment. So pretty much in the HCS program, you're gonna see employment assistance, but you're also gonna see supported employment. And the best way for me to describe that is that employment assistance is pretty much the services that your individual is gonna get before they ever have a job. So these are the services of like building up those work skills, those communication skills, learning the do's and don'ts of like an interview, how to appropriately dress for that interview, how to appropriately dress for the job, all those different kinds of tasks. Supported employment is actually once you have the job. So once they're in their job, what if they need on the job training, if they need job coaching, if they just need monthly check-ins just to make sure everything's all right, if they just need help with training videos, different stuff like that. So again, these are offered through HCS and AmeriGroup. So once employment is obtained, the client is moved on to the next steps, which is supported employment. So like I said, in our Mission Life program, we do a lot of employment assistance that's integrated into that program, which is building up resumes, kind of giving them classes over like what to wear, what not to wear, what are the proper phrases to use whenever you're trying to explain, different difficult situations you might have dealt with. And we even talk about like disclosing your disability. Like, do you even want to disclose and talk about, that this is a disability that I have, these are accommodations that I need, what are the pros and cons of expressing that? Because a lot of times our guys get nervous that, I'm going to disclose my disability and then they're going to, not give me a lot of hours, or they're not going to want to hire me, or whatever their concern is. But the pros or the benefits of disclosing your disability is requesting those accommodations and those modifications to different job tasks that can help them benefit and be way more successful. So again, supported employment helps people 17 and older with mental illness, intellectual or developmental disabilities, and traumatic brain injury find jobs that pay competitive wages. These jobs are all integrated settings in the community, meaning you will work with others who don't necessarily have disabilities. And then again, the supported employment services are on-site job coaching. So we will actually go in there and work one-on-one with your individual, have them understand what their job task is. And let's say their manager is giving them a job task that they're just not understanding, or they're not comprehending, or they're really struggling with, then it's our job to help them be successful in that job role, right? So if it's something like they're working at Kroger's and they're needing to go outside and pick up, the shopping carts, but they're just really struggling with that task, they're not understanding that they're supposed to go out, every hour to check on those carts, then, it's our job to communicate with the manager and let them know, like, hey, they're actually more of like a visual learner. Can you write down like a timed schedule and put it up in their locker to show them like these are the times they're supposed to go out and get the shopping carts, So we just kind of bridge that gap between employment and managers and different coworkers to help them integrate better with their coworkers, build those relationships and that rapport, and then help them to be more successful. We also provide transportation to and from work through supported employment. So picking them up and taking them to work, no matter what the time of day is. And then job skills training. So whenever they first get onboarded, you know, everyone has to go through those really long training videos, a lot of paperwork that they got to answer. You know, they have a lot of serious information like their social security that they have to deal with during all that process. And again, that's what our team is there for. They're there to help answer all those confusing questions so that their benefits aren't affected in a dramatic way and they're still able to have their own income coming in. And so then job search training and support, accommodations training and support, and then continued support throughout the employment. So I've had some guys who, you know, we've done the accommodations training and support. You know, they've gotten really well within their job. They're getting along with their coworkers. They built rapport with their manager, and it's all going good. And then let's say we do like our monthly check-in, and the manager's letting us know, like, hey, they're kind of slacking, they're not really as motivated, or we're having really difficulty with them like clocking in, clocking out on time, or finishing a job task, whatever it is. Then we will come right back in and start working, you know, one-on-one with that individual until, you know, they become successful again. This is a great opportunity because a lot of times, you know, through without HCS, just through private pay, we've had parents who told us that, you know, a manager or you know, a supervisor has told them that they're already on a strike system or they want to write up their individual already. And, you know, I've been able to go in there and quickly, you know, talk to the manager, let them know like, hey, let's work on this instead. You know, like, I understand, you know, it's frustrating, but let me show you how they can benefit from this and they can work better.
Fantastic. There's a couple more questions. Can we access your services through Medicaid if we don't receive the waiver services yet?
No, so currently we only accept HCS and then like contracts through class and then also private pay. So we can't really work with just Medicaid because we're not just a provider with Medicaid.
Okay, and then Jamie's got the question about expansion into different areas. Someone was asking about Dallas, Fort Worth, and rural areas around there, if you guys are planning an expansion there. So the answer to that, if you're not looking in the chat box group, is that they are always looking into expansion, but there just aren't any plans to go there yet.
And so these are some of our real life clients that are in our supported employment program. So the first guy to your left is Jake. He currently works at HEB as a bagger, and he is well known in the HEB community. He actually has certain customers that will only specifically go into his line because they absolutely love the way that he takes care of their groceries and bags their groceries specifically. And a lot of times he has a really long wait line because, you know, the customers really enjoy Jake and he has great customer service. So he's constantly smiling, constantly, you know, saying, yes, ma'am, good morning, how's your day? You know, he really likes interacting with all of the different customers that he gets to see every day. When we do talk to him about, you know, like the likes and dislikes of his job, he does say that he dislikes going to go get the shopping carts out in the parking lot, but he says that he doesn't mind because he completely enjoys working for HEB. His manager is also really amazing, and he actually won an APSI award for his great customer service work that he's been doing at HEB. So that's Jake, and he's been there, I want to say, for 2 years now. He's consecutively been working at HEB. Quentin here is our second entrepreneur, and he currently is starting up Q's Secure Shredding. So he actually goes over to a lot of local businesses in the Humble and Houston area and picks up big bags and boxes of paper, and then he shreds them and sends out his invoices to those different small companies right now. So right now he's working on small companies, and we also practice a business pitch with him. He is not very customer service friendly, so we're working on that skill as well with him. So he's constantly working on like his pitch and just kind of smiling and letting people know that he is a friendly face and that they can trust him with their shredding needs. Here we have Dalton. So Dalton is currently working at a Kingwood Pet Resort where he absolutely excels in his limits and is an admirable employee. They absolutely love him there. He gets to work with all of the animals and just kind of works in their kennel, feeding them and bathing them, grooming them, taking care of them, and taking them on walks and just getting to talk to the parents. He loves, taking pictures and sending them to, the dog owners. Previously, Dalton also worked at Spring Creek Barbecue, where they recently changed management. And then he realized, I'm not really getting along with this manager and I'm not happy here anymore, which he voiced that to us. And then we gladly helped him finally find another secure job for him. And we helped him every step of that process. So even like, turning in his resignation letter and just allowing them the 2 weeks, and then having him look for the pet resort and then applying for the pet resort, going through the interview process, and then working there. And then finally, we have Josh. Josh has been employed for over a year at Kroger's, where he is currently on a competitive wage and is working at least 30 hours per week. So there are some times where he gets a little bit over 30, but he is pretty adamant on wanting to stay part-time. So, but it's amazing. We always tell him this is a great job that, like that they're wanting to schedule you more hours. They're pretty much putting you on full-time. They want you to be full-time. So, and he's also gotten better. So he absolutely loves coming to our Mission Life program and doing those like daily activity and social skills activities. But he's gotten better at knowing like, okay, I have to work, so I can't come today. Sorry. And then he lets us go. Before it used to be, he would be like, oh, let me see if someone can cover my shift so I can come, to Mission Life. And we're like, no, that's not what adults do. We have to pay bills. We have to go to work. So he's really gotten into the groove of things and has really excelled in like meeting his coworkers. So at his specific Kroger's, they typically have a lot of turnover rate, and so he's constantly meeting new employees. And I just really like commend him on this because I know he's a shy individual, but he absolutely does like his best to go and introduce himself and make those connections with his coworkers.
Fantastic.
So employment assistance and supported employment, I know, oh, sorry. You can go
Go
back.
ahead.
Sorry. So how we match the individuals with the most appropriate jobs for them is basically just doing like an assessment. A lot of times in some of our pre-eds camps, which is also a service Bloom provides, they do PICS assessments, which is like where we show multiple different jobs and then we just ask them like, which job do you feel like you would like the most? And it may be all three of the jobs we're offering them, they don't like any of them, but which job do you like the most? And then we'll go from there and what skills you have and what we can work on from there. So in these pictures specifically, like the main one, they're actually going through like their resume, and then we're like breaking it down into what skills that they have and like where can we place those skills. So do you want to work a customer service job, or do you want to work as a cashier? Do you want to work as, maybe a stalker is better, or just different job opportunities that are offered, and then seeing what skills work best for them. And then that's where the volunteer opportunities really come into play, because a lot of times, our guys may say, well, I really like stalking and organizing and filing paperwork or whatever the skill may be. So then once we give them that task, how long can they actually really stay on task? Like, is it a 30-minute task, or is it, it's a 30-minute task that you're only staying on task for 3 minutes? So we have to work up to build that skill in order to show an employer like, hey, they're employable. They will work a full shift for you and, only request like a 15-minute break every now and then. So it really depends on the individual and what their skills are, and then how we can build, or if they even, like that job. So like I said, I feel like a lot of times some providers or some service providers will offer a job, and then they'll, kind of force that job onto that individual, and that's not really what we want. We want that individual to absolutely love where they're working at, and really thrive in that environment, because nobody likes to clock into a job that they're just not happy at, especially if you have to spend a lot of quality time there with those people. So now we're going to lead into Jamie taking over for supported employment through TWC services.
Yes, so just a little more insight regarding supported employment and working with TWC. I know Paula had asked the question about the most appropriate jobs and working with TWC in the past. So with our supported employment, we receive a referral from a counselor within TWC, and then our supported employment specialist and the counselor set up a meeting, an initial meeting with the customer. During that meeting, they're going to create their supported employment plan. They're going to talk about keywords, job tasks, and things like that the customer may be interested in. They're going to talk about long-term resources and addressing behaviors that may impact employment. They're doing this based on assessments that are conducted by the supported employment specialist. So similar to what Sarah had mentioned as far as our pre-eds camps and, identifying different images and kind of comparing what they might prefer to do, they're going to continue doing more assessments when they go into the supported employment program. So essentially, even before the supported employment plan is created, they're going to go out to a few different job sites and kind of test those skills and see how the customer is feeling. They're also going to ask questions about like, hey, if you had to pick between working on a team and working individually, which would you pick? What do you like more? There are a lot of unique and little ways even to help identify where somebody can find long-term success, even if they don't know exactly the what of what they want to do or who they want to be as far as their career goes. If we can meet their needs on a multitude of levels regarding any task, then that opens up doors for opportunities in multiple areas, whether it's a grocery store, retail store, working at a engineering firm, things like that. So I like to throw that out there because I think, well, my background specifically is in career services. And so it's something that comes naturally to me. I can watch an individual walk into a building and like watch their behaviors for about 5 minutes and be able to tell if they have a certain interest in a certain area or a certain skill set. For example, if we take a client into Walmart and they go directly to the clothing, and while they're looking at the clothing, they start reorganizing the clothing, that's some insight right there that maybe sometimes other people, like they're not thinking about it in that sense. They're just like, oh, wow, you really care about the organization. That's really cool. You like clothes. But we look at it as, oh, wow, you might be really good at anything detail oriented, especially if it comes to visualization. So now I have a whole plethora of options for you, and we can dive into those deeper and see which one would best suit you. Also with this, it's completely client centric. So if the customer says, I don't want that job, I don't like that job, I don't want to apply for that job, then nobody's going to make them go to that job. It'll be a continual conversation. We will want to know what about that job or role they don't want. So that way we can prevent ourselves from finding more roles that tie into those, things that they don't want. But essentially, the supported employment assessments are going to help guide the plan, and then the plan is going to be pretty specific. We have to have all 12 keywords or job tasks in order for us to figure out what placement might be best for them. So after that employment plan is created, we're going to be diving into the placement. We're going to be working with the customer to find opportunities. We're going to be working with employers to see what opportunities are out there. And it doesn't even have to be opportunities that we've had in the past. One of our most recent placements was an individual working with TWC for supported employment. They had gone, I believe it was roughly 11 years of not working, but they had a degree in engineering and they could not find an employer. They just couldn't figure out how to get out there. And so they enrolled in our supported employment program. And even though that was an area that our supported employment specialist had never really dove into as far as engineering goes, she was able to find local employers and talk to them, engage what they're looking for, and help coach him on areas that maybe were preventing him from getting hired in the past. And within about 60 days, he was brought in and hired, and they were extremely amazed by his knowledge and excited to have him. We have another individual who is legally blind and has a certification for electrical work. which can be a challenge to find employers that are going to, confidently hire somebody to work on electricity when they don't necessarily understand how you can do that safely if you cannot see. So, I work with the supported employment specialist. The supported employment specialist works with employers, and we find ways to kind of demonstrate his skill set and what tools he uses to work with electricity in a safe manner. And he recently got hired as well within just a few weeks. And so there's a lot of things that come into place when it comes to supported employment. We would love for it to be as cut and dry as, we meet the person, we hand them a job, they go to the job, we make sure they do the job and everybody's happy. But at the end of the day, we want our clients and customers to be fulfilled. We want them to be in a role that they can see themselves working in for 5 to 10 or more years. And so that's ultimately the goal is to not only find them employment just to find them employment, but help them find their career and figure out a little bit of who they are, and how they can utilize who they are to be successful in the workforce. So after that placement is when the coaching happens in order to reach closure. And so that will initially start out as hand over hand for those who may need that verbal redirection. Sometimes once verbal redirection is successful, the coach will stop being right next to the customer and they'll walk down the aisle or to another area of the store, or work facility to get that client comfortable not having that coach there anymore. And then eventually they'll leave the site and they'll be available for calls or follow-up or things like that. After closure or during closure, we're looking for insights from the employer, insights from anybody who's involved, whether it's a parent who's helping with transportation or the customer themselves or coworkers. So that way we can make sure there's not going to be any issues or concerns that maybe snowball into a bigger issue later down the road when we're not actively there with them. And then we follow up and follow through to make sure things are good and everybody's happy and feeling comfortable. So that's essentially the process when working through TWC for supported employment, and that service we do offer within the Austin area, Austin, Williamson County, things like that, in addition to the Houston area. And then here is our contact information. I did want to touch really quickly. I know we're running close to time. I'll let Sarah answer more about if there's any assistance with driving, in just a moment. But I wanted to touch base for those of you who maybe are just hearing of Bloom for the very first time. We also have college and post-secondary supports. And so I want to throw those out there for those of you who have students or children that are looking into some sort of post-secondary certification. We have a program that's generally state funded through Campus Connections, or called Campus Connections. We have that program in Nevada and we used to have it in Texas. Every couple of years, Texas renews their providers, and sometimes that can change based on their budget, their priority of efforts. So if they have more individuals enrolling into TWC for things like supported employment than they do for college, then they're not going to continue funding as many college programs as they have in the past. And that can change and ebb and flow, and we have no way to really tell when that is. But we had a Campus Connections contract with TWC for the state of Texas up until this March. So what we realized, because we had 60 clients that we had to kind of tell, hey, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to provide you continued support for the remainder of the semester, we had to come up with a way to fix that because we're not okay with those supports being lost. So we have created a new program, and that's called Navigate You. I'm going to put the website in the chat just for those of you who do have individuals that are interested or would like to learn more. Please feel free to go to the website. Please plug it into Facebook and follow us on there. I'd love to send you all updates and things like that. But this program, essentially, it's perfect for the driving because there are things we can help with when it comes to driving. For the college support is, we talk through those things. We talk through driver's education. We talk through what's the fear of driving. We talk through alternate transportation options for those individuals who are completely not interested in driving or able to drive. And so we do navigate those things, but this is a new fully privately funded virtual college support program, and we can help from anywhere from, a career assessment to identify what post-secondary might be best for your student in the first place. But also we can assist and support with applications to colleges. We can assist and support with FAFSA, and then we provide ongoing support similar to what Sarah said about, kind of being a middle person. We like to partner cross-functionally and we like to bridge gaps. So that's essentially what we do on the college end. And then here, as you saw, when it comes to transitioning towards employment.
So you
Sarah,
might
did you want to
be-
dive back in real quick? Sorry.
Yeah, Sarah.
Sorry, yeah, I realized I answered her question, but it was to the panelist only. So I sent it in. But yes, so typically when we provide work transportation, it's through our company vehicles. If some individuals, we actually go in the home and provide like CFC Pass Hab, which is like one-on-one support. And if the ending of their CFC runs into their employment, then typically our staff will just use their own personal vehicles. So that's typically how we do like their work transportation. As far as like teaching them to drive, they would have to have like their own personal driver's license, obviously. But we can do, so we've done things like where the individual is like driving and they have their driver's license, so they know how to drive, but maybe they're just like not learning the route, or they're kind of nervous driving to and from work. So we have done it where we follow behind them in our own vehicles so that they know like, hey, look, we're right here, we're right behind you, we're supporting you if anything happens. And we've also done it where one of us is actually in the car with them while they themselves are driving to and from work. So we provide those different kinds of supports. As far as like teaching them to drive, no, they would actually probably have to go and get their driver's license through that.
So I just want to point out, I've been flipping through the rest of my slides because we're running out of time. So you've seen my team, you've seen some of the other topics we've covered. I stayed for just a second on the slide that shows like you can follow that link when you get it later on to our upcoming webinars. But this one is important. We do offer a free consultation at Consolidated Planning Group, where we answer your questions about planning for the future, whether it be financially or benefits for your loved one. We do a full range of special needs planning, life insurance, investments, all of that. You can use the QR code to get on our calendar or call the office or email us. We want everybody to sign up for this free consultation. It is on Zoom, usually takes between 30 to 45 minutes. We answer any questions that you have first, and then we go into how we work and what we do, and see if we would be a good fit moving forward. But as we're wrapping up, I have one question and one topic. From the financial standpoint, we often hear families, talking about, well, my child wants to work or my child works, but then he loses out on his SSI benefits, or then he can't qualify for other benefits. Have you seen cases where, people are earning so much through your program that they don't qualify for the waiver anymore, or things like that?
I think the only thing that I've seen parents run into is actually that like their individual is earning income, right? So like it's good news because obviously they're being successful in their job role, and they're getting raises and all of that stuff, but obviously it does affect their SSI income. But there's a chart somewhere, I can look for it, but there's actually a chart that actually specifies how the ISS income is adjusted depending on the pay. And I want to say it's like $1 for every so often that they're making. So it's not a big decrease. I know a lot of parents get scared, like they're like, oh, he's working now, so they're going to take away the SSI, and that's not it at all. They do decrease it, but it's based off of like what their income is. And a lot of our guys' income is not, it's not $20 an hour. It's 15, $15 an hour, $14 an hour, stuff like that. So which obviously again, we're proud of them. We want them to, make a living, make that income coming in and get those raises. But I don't think anyone should be scared that SSI is going to be, stripped away, because the majority of our clients do still get their SSI, and they also get like SNAP benefits and like food stamps and stuff like that. So, and they're still working in a competitive workforce.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, that wraps it up for today. We're almost hitting 1 o'clock. So thank you everybody for joining us. Thank you so much to Sarah and Jamie for presenting this great information. You've got all of our contact information, and you will receive these slides in your email later on today, along with a link to our webinar on our YouTube channel. So please watch that if you want to see this information again. Reach out to any of the three of us if you have questions. We would love to help you. That is truly why we're here, is to help. So thank you all for being here with us today and for listening to us for an hour. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your week. Bye,
Thank-
everybody. Thank you.